Turning our attention for now to the UK, where British Prime Minister Theresa May has taken questions in the Parliament the day after the members of Parliament voted on Prime Minister Theresa May's Brexit divorce deal. Take a listen.
At every stage, the Right Honourable Gentleman said we wouldn't get agreement in December. We did. He said we wouldn't get the implementation period in March. We did. He said we wouldn't get a withdrawal agreement and a political declaration, and we did. Concerns have been raised. Concerns have been raised about the backstop, and as I said, we continue those discussions. And no one yesterday was left in any doubt about the strength of feeling in this House. But of course, we all know what the Right Honourable Gentleman's answer to the backstop is: ignore the referendum and stay in the European Union.
If there's an agreement, why won't the Prime Minister put that agreement to a vote of this House? The Federation of Small Businesses says that planning ahead is impossible. Many other people around this country find planning ahead impossible because all they see is chaos at the heart of government and an inability to plan anything for the future. Yesterday, the cross-party select committee, including Conservative MPs for the Committee for Exiting the European Union, unanimously found the Prime Minister's deal, and I quote, fails to offer sufficient clarity or certainty about the future. Will the Prime Minister give the country at least some certainty and categorically rule out the option of no deal?
Yes. The way to ensure there is no deal is to agree a deal. That's the way you ensure there's no deal. But the right honourable gentleman talks about the impact on businesses. I'll tell him what will have an impact on businesses up and down this country. What we learnt just a few days ago, that the Shadow Chancellor wants to change the law so that...
Order. The Prime Minister's reply must be heard, and it will be. The Prime Minister.
Businesses will be affected by the fact that the Shadow Chancellor wants to change the law so that trade unions in this country can go on strike in solidarity with any strike anywhere in the world. That may be solidarity with trade unions. It's not solidarity with small businesses, and it's not solidarity with the ordinary working people who would pay the price of labour.
Speaker, my question was, would the Prime Minister rule out no deal? She has failed to do that. Can I tell the Prime Minister this sorry saga is frustrating for businesses, for workers, and many actually behind her as well. Many, though, are trying to work constructively to find a solution. Yesterday, her former Brexit minister said a new customs union with the EU could be the basis for a parliamentary consensus. Absolutely. When is she going to start listening to people that want actually to find a constructive solution to this, rather than denying Parliament the right to debate it and vote on her deal?
Well, we all know one group of people that don't want to find a constructive solution. It's the Labour Party front bench. What we see on the other side. That's what we see on the other side of the chamber. No plan, no clue, no Brexit.
Mr. Speaker, the time for dithering and delay is over. The Prime Minister has negotiated her deal. She is.
The Right Honourable Gentleman will be heard. Jeremy Corbyn.
Mr. Speaker, the time for dithering and delay by this government is over. The Prime Minister has negotiated her deal. She's told us it's the best and only deal available. There can be no more excuses, no more running away. Put it before Parliament and let's have the vote. Whatever happens with her Conservative leadership vote today, it is utterly irrelevant to the lives of people across our country. It does nothing to solve the government's inability to get a deal that works for the whole country. She's already been found to be in contempt of Parliament. Will she now put this deal before Parliament and halt this escalating crisis, which is so damaging to the lives of so many people in this country?
We all know from the multiplicity of changes in plan we've seen from the Labour Party, there's one thing we can be sure about, that whatever U-turn comes next in Labour's policy, he'll send out...
Order. I said a moment ago the Leader of the Opposition must be heard, and belatedly he was. And the Prime Minister will be heard. The Prime Minister.
Whatever change in Labour policy we'll see, he sent out his henchmen to reveal it all to the world, the inconstant gardener. Can I say to the Right Honourable Gentleman, I think it's time. Somebody will explain it to the Leader of the Opposition a little bit later. Can I say to the Right Honourable Gentleman that he should be honest with people. He should be honest with people about his position. He couldn't care less about Brexit. What he wants to do is bring down the government, create uncertainty, sow division and crash our economy. The biggest threat to people and to this country isn't leaving the EU, it's a Corbyn government.
Paul Masterton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A few weeks ago, Ben McKenzie from Neilston, a pupil at Eastwood High School, took his own life, having been the victim of cruel online threats and bullying on social media and to his mobile phone. He was just 13 years old. Nearly £10,000 has been raised in his memory for Beautiful Inside and Out, a Scottish charity that supports the families of victims of child suicide. But can the Prime Minister set out what this government is going to do to tackle cyberbullying, not just to support and empower victims, but to deter and prevent children who may be engaging in these acts, not realising the consequences they can have, because no family should be enduring a Christmas without their child due to suicide?
Well, can I say to my honourable friend, he has raised an extremely serious issue, and I'm sure the thoughts of the whole House and the condolences of the whole House are with Ben's family at this terrible time and this terrible tragedy that has occurred. And as I say, he's raised an incredibly serious issue, because this question of cyberbullying is one that we do need to address in both ways, as he says, both working with the internet companies in relation to what is put out on their platforms, working with schools to help people to be able to recognise this material and to deal with it, but also to support those children who could, as my honourable friend said, be the victims and who might be, or those children who might be carrying out these attacks. And what our consultation showed last year on internet safety was that despite a range of voluntary initiatives and good work by a range of charities, and I commend the work of the Scottish charity Beautiful Inside and Out and the amount of money that's been raised, this does remain a serious issue for millions of people. I know the Scottish Government has been addressing this with their Respect for All approach. We are funded the UK Safer Internet Centre. That's providing guidance for schools. But this is an issue we should all take very seriously, and the Government will continue to work on this.
Ian Blackford. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I associate myself with the remarks of the Prime Minister on cyberbullying and indeed on the terrible tragedy yesterday in Strasbourg? Mr. Speaker, we were promised strong and stable. We were promised a vote on the Brexit deal. But this Prime Minister can't even do her own job because of the Tory civil war. This government, Mr. Speaker, is an embarrassment. Christmas is just 2 weeks away. Will the Prime Minister bring...
A crucial few hours for Prime Minister Theresa May as far as the Brexit deal vote is concerned. Let's get in further details from our London Bureau Chief, Mandy Clark. who's been tracking the very latest. The Prime Minister has made her stand very clear right since the very beginning, Mandy, that this is the best deal in the interest of Britain, in the interest of the people. But a lot of sticking points still remain. The last few days, she's been trying to salvage her position, also trying to say that the new Prime Minister, if any, will have to delay the Brexit vote.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two fires that Theresa May is fighting at the minute. Of course, one is to rescue her Brexit deal. The big issue for the opposition Labour Party and also the Tories who've triggered that no confidence vote is the backstop. She went to Brussels to try and get more assurances that the backstop won't mean that they're stuck in the EU customs union forever. That's the big worry amongst Brexiteers. They feel like it's indefinite that they'll be stuck in this backstop. The backstop is just a security measure, so that while they figure out how they're going to deal with the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. So that's her Brexit deal issue. Because she hasn't solved that, they felt, a lot of Brexiteers said they don't want the backstop at all. Take it out. Now, she went to Brussels to get reassurances. They felt she's not listening to them. They triggered the no confidence vote. That's her other big issue. Tonight, around 6 o'clock local time, the Tory MPs will be gathering to vote on whether enough members of the party have confidence in her as a leader. If she doesn't get the majority there, she will no longer be she'll no longer be the Prime Minister and no longer be the leader of the Conservative Party. Then we'll have a leadership contest. So she has two major challenges ahead of her.
Right, that of course is the immediate challenge for the UK as well, Mandy, because in case things do not go well in Theresa May's favour, it could also mean a period of uncertainty, to say the least, for the UK and its people and for the Brexit deal, of course.
Yeah, it's the worst possible scenario to have a leadership contest for the Tory party right when we have 4 months left before Britain could essentially crash out of Brexit. So if she, to put it in that situation, if she loses the vote tonight, then there's going to be a leadership contest. That's 6 weeks long before we get a new Prime Minister. Now, that new Prime Minister, the front runner is lead Brexiteer Boris Johnson, who doesn't have the best relationship with his European colleagues. The other one that's being named is Sajid Javid. Now, he has a better kind of international reputation, but either way, they will have to negotiate a whole Brexit deal with very few months left, two possibly if we do a leadership contest, and then it has to pass through Parliament. It doesn't seem there's even enough time in the calendar for that to be possible. So some people are just saying, pull Article 50, stop Brexit, try and get a better deal, and then you can re-trigger it again. So it's completely unclear where the future is, what will happen in the future if she gets voted out of office.
Right, so two major challenges up ahead for Theresa May, of course, that vote being one which will take place in the next few hours, and whether or not the Brexit deal actually will sail through is the larger question. Will Theresa May be able to salvage her post? Stay with me, Mandy. Also getting in further perspectives from Drew Luckman, chairman of Republicans Overseas Scotland and political commentator joining us from St Andrews in Scotland. Beginning with what the odds are looking like, whether or not they stand in Theresa May's favour for tonight's vote. What happens next, Drew?
I believe that today will be the end of Theresa May's premiership. Even if she survives this vote of no confidence, there will simply be too many members of Parliament voting against her for her to survive in the future politically.
Sure, but who do you think is the right successor in that case? Who can work out Britain's Brexit battle better than Theresa May?
If there's a new Prime Minister, it has to be someone who supports Brexit. Where I believe these last negotiations went so wrong is that they were being done by Theresa May and a government that didn't believe in, that didn't actually support Brexit. So any future leader, whether it be Dominic Raab or Boris Johnson, it has to be someone who supports Brexit and is willing to tell the European Union that they're preparing for a no-deal Brexit, willing to get the EU back to the table and get a deal that actually is beneficial to the United Kingdom.
Right, Andrew, with the Brexit conundrum still underway, is this the right time for a leadership change, though, given the kind of uncertainty that could lead to?
No, I do not think this is the perfect time for a leadership challenge, but I don't think the Conservatives ever would have had a perfect time for one. But if they do have a new leader and someone does come out of this leadership challenge, I believe it has to be someone who supports Brexit, who believes in Brexit, and who is willing to negotiate a good deal for the United Kingdom.
All right, Drew, thanks very much for those perspectives. Mandy, before we let you go, we're completely running out of time in this edition, but you said the vote, of course, is slated for a few hours from now. That's going to be crucial. But in terms of the strategy in the Theresa May camp, how have they ensured that the next few hours do go in their favor? What's their strategy been so far?
Well, certainly there's going to be a lot of lobbying behind the scenes on why her side will argue why, even if she might not be the perfect leader, that why she should stay in post. And a lot of the arguments we've discussed, that there's simply not enough time before Brexit is due to happen. That's what her camp will be arguing. But all she needs is she needs a majority. So even if it's just one, if she wins by one vote, she will remain leader. And I think we have to remember, looking at Theresa May's track record, she won't step down if it's tight. She will remain as leader. That's something, even when she's faced with a lot of pressure, she has remained and she hasn't bowed down to that pressure. So I think we can expect an incredibly tight race. Even if she just wins by one vote only, she will stick with it. And you have to remember that Jeremy Corbyn, not so long ago, did face no confidence leadership vote, and he survived it. And there hasn't been if you survive a no confidence vote, you have at least 2 years where they're not allowed to have another one. So, in a way, if she can survive this, she at least doesn't have to worry about her rebelling Tories for the next little while. But certainly, I think her as a politician, a lifetime politician, is certainly damaged.